Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Funky Marketing Podcast. Today, I have a special guest, somebody who can I call a friend, a sir, and all these different kind of names, but somebody who also has a podcast, does great things when it comes to conversion rate optimization, website building, SEO things. And I'm gonna let Sam introduce himself to you. But first, Sam, I want to ask you because you follow soccer, you play football. What's your favorite team?
Oh man, yeah, Liverpool. Liverpool is my team.
Nice.
I'm one of those annoying people that plays a lot of football but knows very little about the sport.
That's actually good. You're on the right side of the track. Looking from the health perspective and all those things.
Yeah. So I think if I followed football too closely, I'd only be disappointed all the time, especially as Liverpool have come so close recently to winning the league so many
Man,
times.
I kind of feel the same as I'm a Partizan fan, and we get into those couple of years when like one club is winning, then another one is winning,
Yep.
and we are now in the moment when like we are so bad that it sucks.
Yeah, there's a lot of pain, a lot of emotion in football. So that's why I
Exactly.
focus on playing it. Not that I'm that great, but good fun, good exercise, I guess.
Of
Like you with
course,
basketball,
of
right?
course. Yeah. I mean, I also play like 3x3, those kind of things, but I'm not like playing professionally. That was years ago. So, I'm
Fun.
like a 40 years old guy, just playing for the sake of health and competitiveness, of course.
Yeah, man. It's nice to have that. Got to get away from
Perfect.
the screen.
So tell me, I realized that I never asked you, about you, your team, who are the companies you are working with, those kind of things. So tell me a little bit more about what you guys do.
Yeah, appreciate it. So I'm the founder at Breaking B2B, and just like yourself, we've got a podcast which is called Breaking B2B, where a bit like this, I interview B2B marketing practitioners to really find out what's driving growth, typically at B2B SaaS companies. So we'll dive into a strategy that's working for them today and break it down. Or I do solo episodes, usually around B2B SEO or websites or some of the weird experiments that I run around marketing for my own business. And then, yeah, my main company is breakingb2b.com. And we essentially work with B2B and SaaS companies that are a little bit tired of seeing competitors above them in organic search results on Google, kind of stealing traffic, mind share, and inbound leads. So we fix that with a bit of an unusual approach to SEO, content marketing, and websites. That's our focus, really.
Yeah, cool. So I like that we can have all kind of people, listening, especially we're streaming live on LinkedIn and YouTube. Kyle asked, how do you get such a close shave?
A close shave. Well, just shave every morning. I'm one of those guys that has a baby face and cannot grow a beard or a mustache to save his life. So I have to shave. It's either that or I have terrible like half beard. So I can't grow a quality beard like Nemanja. I'm one of those baby face kids.
Yeah, I look the same as my father. That's kind of like in the genes.
Nice, man.
So I wanted to kick this off by having sort of a discussion because you and
Sure.
I, both are not focused that much on a technical SEO side, but and I don't want to handle it from the technical side, but there are a lot of changes happening, especially with the search engines, with Google, with
Mm.
the involvement of AI, especially in the last year and a half. And I want to start there because I want to tackle which companies are the ones that should actually focus on SEO, right? In which phase of their growth, where they are, and so tell me how do you see Google, how do you see SEO in these days? Looking from B2B, B2C perspective, let's just have an opinion.
Yeah. So SEO is a funny old beast, right? Especially when you get into communities, when you get into channels like LinkedIn. Some folks are saying it's alive and booming. Others saying it's RIP since AI overviews has hit the search engine results page. Others are saying it's part of the ecosystem. I'm probably somewhere in there, really. So I'm of the sense that SEO, organic search, is very much best placed as a demand capture channel, in the sense that if your product, if your service, if your offer, if your software, if folks are aware that the offering that you provide, that you sell, actually exists, then that's when SEO is going to work at its very best. That's when you can almost guarantee that folks are searching on Google for it. They might be looking directly for the tool or the software or the service, or comparing you to competitors, or maybe searching for the problems that you fix or jobs that you help them get them done. And that's where SEO is at its very best. When it gets a bit trickier is when you're perhaps providing a solution that's maybe a bit newer, i.e. some kind of new category that folks just aren't aware exists, in which case SEO isn't always the best first go-to-market strategy. I'm happy to dive into what might be a better or more sound investment of time or resource. But yeah, like you say, there's a lot of shake-up going on in SEO at the moment with the introduction of AI overviews. So the instant AI results at the top of the fold when you search for certain queries, and the introduction of so many kind of different AI tools to produce content. I know when we last chatted, Nemanja, when we were on each other's podcast, probably 2 or 3 years ago, none of this stuff was really around. So there's been quite a big shake-up since we last spoke.
Yeah, exactly. And you said it really well, because the way I'm seeing it, if you don't have a brand, or, you don't solve a very specific problem, then maybe SEO is not the right time for you to go and invest, right? Because usually the way I see SEO is middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, part of the whole user journey. And also in that part we're going to chat what kind of content do you need to create for those stages. But looking from that perspective, if you want to be on top of mind, usually you start with social. You start with LinkedIn in B2B space these days. You start with YouTube, with podcast, with these kind of things that we are doing right now.
Sure.
And then, when you get to the list, right, of like 3 to 5 companies, and somebody from the company needs to make a decision, they go to Google. Then they look at you, they see, how are you related to the competitors? How are the reviews? They look at, maybe they look at the blog, they see, okay, these guys actually knows what they're talking about. Let me go, and then go back to LinkedIn. And then they say, okay, let me see if that actually resonates with what I found on Google, right? Yeah. Are these guys actually worth it? Do they have the experience, or they just wrote things just like that? Or they go to, I don't know, like Amazon Marketplace, or, Azure, and those kind of things, depending what you are selling. And it goes all around the way they might get back to Google, to find out different things. So it's definitely, the buyer journey is not linear, and a lot of stuff influence the decision-making process.
Completely agree. Like you said there, the best way to think of SEO is not the be-all end-all of everything. And I even sell SEO services, right? But it's, if you're selling a service or a solution or a piece of software that is high ticket, I'm talking, I don't know, 50K, 60K average contract value or above, then folks just don't wake up and decide to spend that much cash on your offer. There's a lot of thought and process. And like you said, it might be that maybe they start with looking you up on LinkedIn, then eventually they search for the kind of software, like best software for category on Google. Then they see you at the top of the list, and then they speak to the rest of their exec team on Slack and say, look, I just saw these guys, these look cool, like, I think we should add these to our vendor list. And then they might forget about you for a few months, and then they might hear you on a podcast and come back and search on Google again. So it's, especially in kind of higher ticket offerings, which a lot of the folks we work with are, like, Google is one, or SEO rather, is one piece of the puzzle. But then if you want it to be of max value, then you've also got to understand where your target prospects are actually hanging out, spending their time, and where they get their trusted information from. Because if you do SEO in almost a silo, like most marketing channels, it's not going to be as impactful as if you're kind of almost all bound, like where the other channels that those folks hang out at.
I mean, that's actually the time we are living in, right? So marketing became a bigger beast than just one channel, than just one person to handle the marketing, or just one company. It became, I look at it like a fifth utility, and it tackles so many things. Like we all remember, I don't need to repeat it, like 4 Ps. Even we have 6 Ps these days. So it tackles so many things inside the buying process, product development, and all those other stuff, that, it's definitely not easy. But one thing that's essential, it's the website, right? It's the foundation. It's where people go, even though if we don't know that it's happening, they look for us on Google. Usually it's the website and then it's LinkedIn, right? Or reverse, or however do we do it. But those are the things that people find, and that
Sure.
they represent us, who we are, right? And so how do we handle the website? It matters a lot, because this is where we show, do we understand, how do we position ourselves, how do we communicate that positioning, what's our unique value, and those kind of things. Tell me, how do you look at it? I usually look at the website as just an outlet.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the website plays different roles depending on your go-to-market, really. If you're mainly doing outbound, then it might be more of a reference, proof of concept. I've had an outbound email, I've had an outbound call, whatever, and I'm just checking the website that they actually can do what they say they can do. Whereas most B2B SaaS companies we deal with kind of doing a bunch of channels. They're probably doing some paid media. They're probably doing some outbound. They're probably doing some SEO. They might run a podcast. They might do events, whatever. They're probably doing a bunch of things. And in that case, like you touched on, the website really does need to be your best salesperson, because it's live 24/7. And I think at this stage, I've interviewed maybe 403, 404 kind of B2B execs, marketing leaders on our show, Breaking B2B. And most of the time I just ask them, I say, like, what is important to you if you're evaluating a piece of B2B software or a new offer or a B2B service? Like, what do you want to see, or what do you care about? And most of them say the similar thing. They say, I want to land on a B2B website. I want to quickly know exactly what you do, how it helps me, and why I should choose you, so you're a differentiator compared to the others. I want to quickly see your offer in action. So whether that's like a live demo that I can preview, or a video review, or something similar, so I can actually get under the hood of your offer or your software. I want to see some proof of results, so client case studies or customers that you help, customer review videos. I want to check the pricing, so I know it's actually in budget, so I don't need to speak to a salesperson to know how much it's actually going to cost me. Get my questions answered, so address common queries, concerns, and all that good stuff. And on the basis that those boxes are checked, I just want to easily schedule a time with a specialist who can cover my questions and help me progress forward. So it sounds like that part of the website is super basic, yet so many B2B and tech companies just don't manage to do that, i.e. their messaging on their homepage is confusing or unclear, or it's just copying their competitors. Like the homepage headline is, we're the best at this, or we're a turbocharged AI tool to help boost your revenues. And it just lacks clarity, lacks differentiation, doesn't show folks like why they should choose you and how it's going to help them. And a lot of it really, Nemanja, comes down to customer research and understanding what your dream clients, aka the people that are going to buy your stuff, actually care about learning, seeing, doing, and taking action on. And unfortunately, a lot of startups neglect this. A lot of funded companies neglect that, sometimes because they've got pressure from VCs, or perhaps the exec team are just copying what the competitors are doing. So there's a lot of stuff around customer research that can really, really help your website in terms of messaging and actually ensuring it resonates.
Yeah, I mean, when they come to the website, it should actually increase the trust, not decrease it.
Yeah.
Right. And it happens when you speak with the words from your customers. I usually get, I don't know, do you get that as well? Because you are interviewing a lot of stuff and doing a lot of things as well. Like, people tell me, when I go to your LinkedIn, when I go to your website, I see exactly the things that I want to say, but for some reason I don't say them. Right. I get that a lot. And, it means that I actually understand my peers and the customers that I'm working with. And, Amir added one thing, and I think you mentioned it, but I want to tackle it a little bit more, like website as a social proof.
Yeah.
That should be right a place when we can see actually what we are doing, the size of the company and how it goes, and that actually makes us create different kind of website with different purposes.
It's a good point. And I think a lot of websites get social proof wrong as well. Because social proof, like, for example, you might land on let's say, a startup company that serves SMB, small to medium business, and then you might see logos of enterprise companies. So like, the common homepage setup is like top hero area or top banner area, and that'll have their main H1, the heading 1 tag, and the tagline. And hopefully that's where it clearly kind of demonstrates what you do, how it helps, and why you. And then you'll probably have on a SaaS website next to that maybe a video demo or something like that, or a nice screenshot of your offer in action. Then you've usually got the logo bar just underneath. Like, we've helped 3,227 B2B tech businesses like do X result. But sometimes you'll see, like, on these SMB solution providers, they've got massive brands. Like, what's a massive brand? I don't know, HubSpot or stuff like that. So they've got these huge brands, but they don't actually serve these huge brands, really. That's not their ICP. So not just using social proof, but actually tailoring it so it's relevant to who you're trying to attract. So if you're saying we serve these mammoth companies, but actually you want to be working with companies, I don't know, let's say mid-market, maybe up to 250 employees, whatever, it's not always helping you, because you might scare off the smaller fish. Or likewise, if you're a big fish and you only want to work with enterprise, but you're putting small logos, you can have the opposite effect. But yeah, social proof, like you said, like, website needs to be trustworthy. So as you scroll through, whether it's a homepage, a service page, a product page, making sure that you're backing up your claims. So if you're saying, for example, as we scroll through the homepage, you might say, these are usually the 3 main struggles that you might be facing, and here's the 3 solutions or ways that we fix that. And then you might have examples of, I don't know, if you serve marketing folks, you might have a director of marketing that then has their picture, has a quote from them that says, this was the problem we were facing, this was the impact, and this is why we chose them, and the end result. Or maybe video reviews. Like, there's so many cases for social proof on websites, but I think where folks go wrong is not necessarily tailoring it to the page or tailoring it to the ICP that they're trying to hit on. But yeah, there's a lot of ways we could talk about that.
Yeah. You reminded me now of a Salesforce website. I don't know if you've seen that. I see a lot of folks talking about it these days, because like, everybody knows who Salesforce is, right? So they're corporation, even bigger than just a corporation, and everybody knows them. So it's kind of obvious that they should focus on the bigger clients, right? Bigger companies. But then when you go to their website, what you see is they mention mid-sized businesses. Right.
Yeah.
And and when you think about it, they get the bigger logos coming to them inbound. It's happening. But for the bigger logos, they need to involve sales, and it complicates the process and it makes it slower. But on the other hand, for mid-sized businesses, they have product-led motion place, and they can convert on their own through the website.
Yeah, I was reading, I can't remember who, someone did a case study on LinkedIn recently on that. It was quite interesting. And they were saying that was the motion, right? Like you just said there, they want their homepage to appeal to SMBs because they want to get that product-led approach and get signups. And they don't actually care so much about the enterprise folks with the homepage, just because they go more of a sales-led approach. They don't really need to attract them with the homepage. They can worry about other pages of the site. So yeah, it's a interesting approach.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the industries you mostly work with, and let's chat about it, how they can set up the whole motion that they got from the website through the closing demand, and then creating demand if there's a need for that.
Yeah. Do you want to start with the SEO side of things, or would you prefer with the website?
However do you want it?
Let's start with SEO, because then we can get a bit more actionable. Then we can maybe lead into how the website can then kind of capture that.
Yeah, but I agree, because basically to get to the website, you need to do a research and get all the data that you need.
Yeah. Let's do that, and then we can kind of give some tips on the site. So, in terms of we mainly these days, most of our clients are B2B SaaS, but we occasionally work with service-based companies. I enjoy working with both. Now, most of these folks, right, they're coming to us for SEO, or they want to invest in SEO, as really they want to drive demos or signups or leads for their sales team. That's the long short of it. Yes, they also want to build up brand reputation. They want to build mind share. They want to ramp up relevant traffic. But most of the time, the end goal is to get demos, signups, trials, or leads. So a lot of B2B, a lot of SaaS companies just take the completely wrong approach of SEO. And there's a number of reasons why it happens. It could be just because they've got a super small marketing team. And when I say small, I mean marketing team of one. And that marketer might be trying to juggle 100 things on their plate every week. And what we'll often see is they're one of the execs, maybe one of the revenue leaders, the founder, whatever, will say to them, I keep seeing our competitors ahead of us in organic search, and I think it's about time that we invested in SEO, so we start kind of ramping up traffic. The problem is that marketing managers, not necessarily a specialist in SEO, they're a jack of all trades, but master of none, but they want to get it done. So they'll say, look, I'll try and juggle in some SEO this week. So they'll go onto a tool like Ahrefs or SEMrush, look up like a high volume, high traffic keyword, like what is X, like what is a KPI, or how to do this, like some super high volume traffic keyword. They'll chuck in that keyword into a tool like ChatGPT, pump out a blog, maybe make a few tweaks to it, chuck it on their website, publish that article, and then get back to the other 100 marketing jobs they've got for the week. And then a couple of months go by, and the revenue leader or the founder will go back to them and say, how did SEO go? And they'll say, yeah, it went fine. I published a page. And the marketing leader or the revenue leader might say, well, how much traffic and leads did it drive? And then they'll say, well, you didn't tell me to do SEO to drive leads or relevant traffic. You just said do some SEO, and I did some SEO, right? And that's where it goes wrong, really. It's not got a strategy behind it. And often that's due to lack of know-how, lack of resources, and folks starting at the top of the funnel, i.e. targeting informational queries instead of sales-focused queries, i.e. the crux of doing SEO well is understanding what does my dream client search for on Google when they want to speak to a salesperson around my offer or similar. So that basically taking the opposite approach. So one of the simplest exercises that you can do, which is exactly what I did when I started Breaking B2B's new website like 7-8 months ago, is fire up a Google sheet or an Excel sheet. And one of the simplest ways to find out kind of relevant, what we call money keywords to drive leads or demos or signups is I usually encourage folks to write out a list, like make a column of what are the main offers you want to sell, i.e. maybe it's calendar scheduling software if that's what you provide, or maybe it's a certain software or certain tool or certain service. That's one column. Column 2 is what are the main industries or niches that I want to break into. Ideally, these are industries or niches that you've historically sold well into, or they definitely have the problem you fix. They're motivated to fix it. And most importantly, they've got cash to invest in the offer, because we don't want someone that's got the problem we fix but can't afford it. And then another column would be for main problems that you fix, along with what folks tend to do in-house to try and resolve the issue. So in software's case, it's usually the in-house way or the DIY way of doing most things yourself is an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheet. Like CRM, most people are kind of struggling with a Google Sheet or something in-house, and they eventually get so frustrated, they waste so much time, they look up for how to do a better way on Google. And then one more column, if you're in software, you want to list all your main competitors. So what are the competitors that always come up on sales calls? Top 3, top 4. And the reason we're doing this exercise is to clearly map out kind of what folks might search for. And then basically you want to make long tail keywords out of each one. So an example I often use is, let's pretend our offer is calendar scheduling software. So one of the competitive keywords we might go for is be like best calendar scheduling software or best calendar scheduling tools or best calendar scheduling platform. Those are going to be really competitive. They're going to be quite hard to rank because we're going up against like HubSpot meetings, Calendly, Chili Piper, Revenue Hero, all those folks. So those might be long-term efforts to rank for because they're going to drive good traffic, good leads. But we want to niche down a bit. So going for longer tail keywords like the industries we serve. So that might be calendar scheduling software for sales teams or for HR teams or for finance or for all those niches we serve well. Those would be good opportunities. And then you can run those through Ahrefs or SEMrush to see what traffic they get. And if they've got a bit of traffic, that's fine. Most of these keywords won't get a ton of traffic, which is good. It means less people are searching for it, but the ones that do have buying intent. And the other common keywords that work well in B2B and SaaS are alternative-based keywords. So if we carry along the calendar scheduling tool route, then that might be Calendly alternatives or Chili Piper alternatives or Revenue Hero alternatives. Or also you can go after things like Revenue Hero pricing or HubSpot meeting pricing or those kind of keywords. And once we've exhausted that and we've said, look, these are these bottom of the funnel keywords that folks are going to search when they want to speak to a salesperson or sign up for an offer, the most simple way of working out what content is going to rank for those keywords is just literally Google the keyword. So if it was Calendly alternative, type that into Google, see what the top 3 organic search results are. And then this is called assessing the intent, the page intent. So usually these type of keywords will bring up a page like the top 10 Calendly alternatives for 2024. And that basically is called a product listicle. And the way those are typically built is you have 10 competitors listed out and you normally list your own offer as number 1. But where companies sometimes go wrong is they'll kind of just talk about how great the offer is and the features and stuff, where really you want to share what differentiates you in the market and why your customers choose you over those competitors. So that might be with, you have an introduction to what the software is. Then maybe you have a nice comparison table with you against the main offer, like why folks choose you. Maybe some social proof, like a customer review and quote, like explaining why they chose you, and then a call to action to kind of book that sign up or demo. And then you'll have the other nine competitors with a fair summary of those below. So that's usually how they're formatted. But it might be that the keyword that you're searching for when you look at the top 3 organic results might be a landing page, might be an article, might be a how-to. It depends on kind of where it is, but usually bottom and middle of funnel are quite often product listicles or landing pages, typically, from experience. So a lot of it is about assessing kind of what's ranking now and then looking for how you can completely blow that page out the water. So in my case, I don't really take half measures. So if I saw rank 1 was a top 10 list, I'd say, well, screw it, let's do a top 20. Like, let's make ours like way better, way more helpful, way more useful. Some time ago, Google introduced a framework called EEAT, Experience, Expertise, Authority, and Trust. So if you can make your page more useful, more detailed, more helpful, and get it written alongside a subject matter expert from your team, it can do wonders. And then just to quickly, before I take a breath, touch on technical SEO. There's technical SEO kind of gets a bad rep in B2B and SaaS websites. And that's because so many agencies spend like months and months on reports kind of saying like, you need to edit your image tags, you need to edit this, you need to make your website speed 0.2 seconds quicker. And just most of it's a load of BS. Like, unless your website takes 2 minutes to load or looks like a potato on mobile view or something like that, you're going to be fine as long as it has a decent design and is easy to navigate. The only main things you need to do from technical SEO is identify the keyword or keywords for the page, have that within your URL. So if it was what we just said there, it might be yourdomain.com/Calendly-alternatives. Have that keyword within your meta title, your meta description, have it within your H1. It's pretty much all you need. You don't need that much more to rank. And then apart from that, the main advantage, especially if you're a startup or business that can move fast, is publishing those pages. So working out what are those money keywords and starting to build and craft that content, get it published as quick as you can, see how it ranks, then worry about optimizing it later. So that, I'll take a breath there, but that's kind of some actionable ones that work quite well for B2B and SaaS.
Yeah, and I didn't want to stop you. You were in your flow. I remember once I was on a podcast and they asked me a question and it didn't stop me once. I talked for 35 minutes.
It's easily done, isn't it? Sometimes when
you know, and they thought the episode was great, and I was like, I could have shared a lot more that if you ask, aside questions. But you said so many important things. I want to tell to the people, go back now to the beginning of the episode and listen to everything again, especially this part, bit by bit. Sam just told you, step by step how you can do it, what do you need to pay attention to. But before you get to all that, you need to actually know how they call your product, right? You actually need to know who are your competitors. You need to know, is there a problem that you are solving? Also, you need to know if your competitors have that one feature, that is missing, and you have it, that can differentiate you from the others, right? Sam also mentioned that you need to, mention how you are differentiating from the others. Usually, that's one feature. You don't need to tell all the features, right? And then if you are somebody who understands things, because I figure out a lot of companies who are building the website, especially if they're starting, they don't understand, the power of, having the names of your competitors on a website, right? Maybe they are not ready yet, not there yet, but in a way that will make it easier for them to understand, for your audience to understand, like these are the features that your competitors don't have, but you have these one or two or maybe three that others don't have. That's why you are a perfect match for your audience. In time you will build all of the features that your bigger competitors have, right? That will happen. But if you have all of them and you don't have these one, two, or three, then you might struggle.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I'll tell you what, another advantage that a lot of larger companies, especially as you get higher mid-market, higher enterprise, a lot of in the software space, they don't want to talk about their competitors at all because they're scared stiff of legal cases. And I get that. But the problem is when you search for a lot of these keywords, be it best X software, like best proposal software, best calendar scheduling software, best CRM software, whatever, or you're searching those competitor keywords like competitor alternative, nearly all the time they bring up product listicles. And if you're not, and what I mean, like the top 10 alternatives, whatever, or the top 10 X software solutions for 2024. And if you're not doing those kind of pages, it's going to be really, really difficult for you to rank and capture that traffic and capture those demand. And like you said, B2B folks, like we talked about at the start of this conversation, they compare 3 or 4 or more vendors. And if you're not consistently showing up in those results and kind of being thought amongst your competitors, then you're losing mind share. You're not getting put in those top lists, and you're missing out on that demand, those inbound opportunities, and more. So it's, if you are able to publish that content at a relatively good pace, and we didn't talk about things like building backlinks because those more competitive keywords might be a lot more difficult to rank, especially if you're on a domain that's fresher or you haven't got much authority. But if you aren't doing some of these things, then your competitors are going to almost get a free lunch.
How do you look at the link building? I always had this explanation that I'm using about link building. It's like, how you are choosing friends. That's how you choose the domains you are connecting with, right? Do you trust them? Do you want to be connected with them? Do you want others to see you with them? And that's what I like to use when I tell to people. That's how you choose the domains you are linking to.
Yeah. I mean, on our site, so my site, breakingb2b.com, was, we kind of built the domain rating from 0 to 40 in a few months. And I didn't do anything mad. Like most of it was through partnerships. So there's like a lot of companies have quick wins on building really good links, but they're kind of sleeping on. So like one really nice way is if your founder or if someone from your exec team has had past press or media or coverage, where they've been on some kind of PR or they've been listed on articles, or they've done past stuff where perhaps that website or the article is just linked generically to the homepage or not even included the link to you. Like if you've got a list of those, or you can find those, and you can probably use that from a tool like Hrefs, and you can kind of just search for your own domain and search for some of the sites that are linking to you. There is the ability to look at your own links. And if you can then reach out to those companies and just say, look, I'd really appreciate it if you can change this link to one of the pages we're targeting for this specific keyword, then most of the time they will play ball. Or another quick win for backlinks is what we're doing now. So podcasting on niche relevant, industry relevant shows. And then when they publish it to their website on an article page, you can ask for a link back to one of the search terms you're targeting to the relevant page. Partnerships are really good. Like we do quite a lot of partnership, for example, with folks
that's something that's often underutilized.
Huge. Yeah. Partnerships are great. If you can find companies that go after the same ICP, the same target clients, but are not direct competitors. So a live example is we do B2B and SaaS SEO, and then Justin Rowe, he runs Impactable B2B LinkedIn ads. So we've done a few pieces of content with him. I just send, I'm a big fan of, if I'm not familiar with people, I just send them painfully short messages like, hey, Justin, I've got a weird idea for kind of creating content and driving inbound each other's way. Are you against a discussion? Something like that, like painfully short, but piques their curiosity. And then most of the time they'll say like, yeah, what the hell do you want, Sam? Like, what are you on about? And then I'll just send them a Loom video with an idea or something like that. And then, create content together. Like you might start light, like a guest article on their website, which is useful to their audience, targets a relevant search term. and in response, they'll get some good traffic, and you can get a link back to your site. Maybe you do a podcast together. Maybe you do a YouTube episode together. Maybe it's a guest post. Maybe it's a LinkedIn contribution, whatever. But the good thing about that is it's not just good for getting a link back to your site, but it's also good for reciprocal business, because if they go after the same target market but are not a direct competitor, they might be able to send referrals your way, introductions.
Exactly.
There's so much more than just SEO that comes off partner place, which I'm sure you've experienced as well, Nemanja, with kind of partner companies. It's just a good business sense as opposed to just SEO, right?
Exactly, and I think that leads me to one more question that I wanted to ask you. Middle of the funnel content. Not many people talk about it. Usually, they focus on top of the funnel content, creating a brand awareness, and then bottom of the funnel content, right? When we close deals, but middle of the funnel is exactly where the partnerships are. And I wanted to ask you to give listeners a couple of advices of what they can do when it comes to creating mid-size of the funnel content, especially from the SEO perspective.
Yeah, I'll talk to kind of a few ways, and this might be considered a bit more top funnel content, and then we can talk about, I guess,
I
more towards the
mean,
bottom.
it's always a mixture, right? It's
Yeah,
here and
everyone's got
there
their
in
own
the
definition,
reads.
haven't
Yeah,
they? One person's bottom of funnel will be someone else's mid, and then vice versa. But let's talk about what we do. I mean, one content strategy, which is really nice, is a framework called Jobs to be Done. And that's basically understanding what are your dream clients' struggling moments when they perhaps do not know your offer exists, but they're facing the problem that you solve. And that often comes in the way of how-to searches, but I'm not just talking about basic top funnel searches like what is a KPI, or I don't know, how to build a website, something super simple. I'm talking about really crisp and specific moments. Like that might be like how to create a content calendar within Google Sheets, or how to import data from Google Sheets to Gmail, or something really specific that folks come to. Like we talked about earlier, a lot of people, like, the enemy of CRM is probably internally a spreadsheet. And you must have heard, like, the best way to get some of this intel is from listening to gong calls or sales calls or talking to your sales team. And then you basically say, like, what are the top 3-4 things that we always hear that folks are doing in-house? Like, what's the way they're getting the job done today? And what is that tipping point where they become so frustrated that they realize they've got to reach out to a company like ours to improve, because they're facing churn issues, they're facing retention issues, they're losing revenue, they're losing time, or they're facing some kind of expensive problem. And then if you can solve that in the way of a keyword that makes sense, and some of these keywords might not get that much traffic, but if you're hearing them a lot on sales calls or customer success calls, then you know they make sense because people are actually searching for them. And those can be really good. So if we do, like, I don't know, how to create a content calendar in Google Sheets, or how to export this data between this platform to this platform, from Gmail to Google Suite, whatever it is. And then if you can create an article that addresses the problem straight away, it says, look, you're probably facing this problem. There is one way to do this internally. Alternatively, if you want to save 5 hours a week on admin, like, consider our product, consider our solution. Here's an example of it. Here's the offer in action. Here's the demo. Here's some social proof of a customer, and, like, sign up for a free trial. And so many SaaS, so many B2B companies are scared to weave their product within their articles. Like, they write these great articles, but aren't that well designed. So they rank on Google, but they look like a wall of text, and they don't actually mention their product. Like, just look at Ahrefs, the beast of the game. Like, all their articles rank super well. They always involve their product. They link to other product pages. They have great screenshots. They have examples. Like, you really should. Most SaaS companies are guilty of not weaving in their product in these kind of articles, and, like, encouraging folks to either sign up or maybe get into their ecosystem. So listen to their podcast or grab a lead magnet, whatever makes sense. But yeah, those specific how-to job to be done queries are really, really powerful. And then I suppose lower down the funnel, it's more like when folks perhaps don't know what vendors are out there, because I'd consider real bottom of funnel keywords things like competitive alternative keywords and stuff like that, or competitive pricing keywords, or vendor pricing, or that kind of stuff. But then I'd suppose lower down mid funnel might be stuff like best X software, best X tools, or those kind of keywords, which again, those tend to bring up listicles or top comparison pages, that kind of stuff. So yeah, a few ideas there that tend to work quite well.
I love that. I will just add, what I like to do if I have space, time, or other resources, people to do that. For example, like using a podcast episode, right? And it's at least two people, talking to each other. Then we craft an article out of it. We have a headline, which is exactly what you described, targeting specific keyword and going towards specific direction. Then doing a write-up, like the article out of it. We embed the links to YouTube, different audio platforms, even the smaller bits of it. And then what I like to do, also use that part as a part of the article as a post on LinkedIn, for example, and the most controversial one with the point of view and actually getting the feedback from the people, and then embedding that inside the article. So then it's not just two of us talking. There's other
Nice.
people as well, and they will share it. And basically, it's kind of like a modern write-up when you get like 10 experts on a field to talk about one topic, right? It's a little bit more in depth and more created to target specific things.
Yeah, I like it. And that makes sense as well. Because obviously you're a B2B service provider or consultant. And if you can actually weave in, like where so many articles go wrong, it's like I say, they can rank by all means, but they're not weaving in actions, they're not weaving in proof, they're not weaving in the product. And folks want to get under the hood of it. Like if you're a SaaS company, they want to see the offer in action. They want to see what customers are saying. They want to play around with the tool. So sometimes you just got to kind of step out and realize that how customer behavior, how your buyer behavior works.
Exactly,
Service.
and those like small things, if you can actually show them, right? I remember on the article having a graphic of the whole process that I'm doing, and I'm telling them, it's usually too small, right? To look at it. They can embed it, but it's graphic written on a white paper. So I tell them, click through it. Then you go to the video when I use Loom and went through each segment of that. Like that video really blew up on LinkedIn because people were
Nice.
coming to the article, then clicking on it, they were going to it. But I want to tell to the people, that's how you create the whole ecosystem. It's not just one thing, just the written content or video or anything. You create all together every time that you do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, what you touched on as well, the distribution strategy as well. Like
Exactly.
if the content can hold its own, then you can break down these articles into mini LinkedIn posts, or if you've embedded a video that's relevant to the topic, then that video can go natively on LinkedIn or other social channels, and you can make infographics. So if you're writing your content that's for Google originally, but it's so good, so useful, so helpful, so in depth, then that can be broken down into so much more.
Exactly. So, ending up this part, tell me two things for people to get out of the podcast episode, and also where they can find more info about you, except LinkedIn. Repeat again the name of the podcast because I want them to remember and go and listen to it because it's a really good one.
Yeah. You mean two things they can get out of this episode?
Yep.
Oh yeah, I mean it's my focus is really actionable tips. So how you can actionably, tactically start ranking your B2B or SaaS website on Google. So the initial foundational stuff, getting found for what we call money keywords or bottom of funnel or commercial queries, and then how you can start creating content that ranks. And then at the start, we talked about kind of the fundamentals of websites, so you can build trust with your target clients and convert them into leads, signups, or demos. But yeah, thanks for having me on, Nemanja. If you want to learn more, Sam Dunning on LinkedIn, or check out the Breaking B2B podcast, or if you can't be asked to do any of this stuff yourself and you're tired of seeing competitors ahead of you in organic search, then take a look at breakingb2b.com, and happy to chat and see if we can help you.
Yeah, I also recommend listening to the podcast, especially while you're walking on the street. Like Sam has this voice, and it's really a nice thing to listen while you are actually walking, and he's saying smart things. So that's a bonus.
Occasionally, yeah. Cheers.
As goes to all of us. Okay, guys. So thanks for watching or listening one more episode of Funky Marketing Podcast. Go back to the beginning of the episode, listen to everything again. Stop when you hear something that's new or that's important. Go back to do more research. Send a message to Sam if you have any questions, and keep it funky. And see you in the next episode. Cheers. And
Cool,
now we're
man.
having a break.
Superb. Do you want to jump straight into me entering you?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. It can be like just switching sides.
Yeah. I'll um I'll dive straight into it. I won't do the intro. I'll do the intro as such to just to yourself, and then we'll crack on. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. Before we get into it, you have regards from LinkedIn. So like Rookie Brocky says, I'm already following Sam, and that's a great event.
Thanks, Rookie B. Much appreciated. Thanks, Amir. Thanks, Kyle. And thanks, everyone, for listening or watching. So let's go. We're now going to have Nemanja on my podcast, Breaking B2B. So we're going to roll straight through. So, Nemanja, welcome to the show. Nemanja is the founder over at Funky Marketing. We're going to be chatting through all things demand generation so you can nail down your demand generation strategy for your B2B tech, SaaS, or service company. And Nemanja is going to share some slightly different, slightly lesser known, slightly unusual plays that you might not have considered to build demand for your business, turn that into leads, signups, sales calls, or pipeline. And we can talk about things like how important demand generation is today, what strategies are actually working that you can tactically put into play as a founder, as a marketer for your business, breaking them down as we always do with a bit of step by step and having a bit of a back and forth. So first and foremost, Nemanja, how important is demand generation compared to other go-to-market strategies right now for B2B and SaaS companies?
Well, I'd say it's essential, right? It's one part of the coin. So we start with closing the demand. So I call demand generation actually closing the demand, just to kind of let that out. And then, if it's not enough, then we start creating demand, creating the awareness, the brand, and all other side of it. Now we can do it in a lot of different ways, and especially today, a lot of people have different opinions about demand generation. Then it's demand creation. Then we call it different names. But what's most important is we start with closing the existing demand in the market. So those are the people who actually have a specific problem that we have a solution for. We start from them, and then we move on to maybe some others who are not aware or are not ready yet to buy or don't know about us.
Okay. So talk us through that then. For someone that's, because I know so many people have a definition of what demand generation means, and it sounds like to you, closing the demand is what it really means. But talk us through what that actually means in a tangible way for folks that might not have heard the saying before.
Yeah, let's look at it. Everybody knows that fact that B2B LinkedIn Institute said, I think a year and a half or 2 years ago, that like 95% of the B2B customers are not in the market to buy right now. I would say it's a little bit more, less than 2% of them from actually working with companies and from the practice. I know the fact are at the market to buy now, meaning talking about B2B products who have long sales cycles and high ACV, high average annual contracts. So it's expensive things to buy. It takes longer because it talks about, on my episode, we talk about jobs to be done, right? You are actually not selling to a person, you are selling to a group of people that all have their jobs they need to do, and you actually need to know the problem, and through your content, through your product, your service, whatever it is you're selling, you need to help them actually solve their problems, right? Sometimes it's the CFO needs to make a decision about investment, about the money. It's the CEO who oversees it and said we finally need to solve that specific problem, or it's the CTO or CMO, however do we call it. And there are also people who are working with you, right, who will actually use the product or work with you as a vendor, however it is, that need to recognize you. So you need to impact that decision making from a lot of different points. And when the time comes for the company, for example, let's talk like you're selling to the CTO. So like the CTO wakes up one day and say, finally, we need to solve that specific problem, right? And it goes, I've been looking for this to solve this, but we didn't have money, we didn't have resources. Now we have a little bit of money, and that problem is really itching us. So he said, for example, I don't know, John, can you go and find me three best products over there that will help us solve that specific problem? So John goes on Google, types in, writes in, finds a couple of lists, and so these are the three companies. So it brings it down to the CTO, and CTO says, okay, we're going to choose one in a couple of months. If that didn't work out, he said, okay, so why did we choose this company? They are made for working with bigger or smaller companies or different kind of companies or different niche inside the industry. So who's the one who recommended it? John, what happened, man? Why did you recommend us that company? He said, you tell me to get you the three best. That's what I did. So go out to Google, check it out, and you will see it for yourself. So John was protecting his ass, to talk about frankly. And that happens a lot. There's a lot of biases inside each position. Everybody protects their jobs, those kind of things. But what can we do to actually avoid all these things, to be on top of mind of the CTO before he makes a decision to go? Which means we need to create a real estate in his heart and mind, how we poetically say that, which means that we need to create awareness, create a brand, and create a relationship with that person or with the people from the team, however it is. And we'll talk about that later, but let's say we didn't influence the decision making before it happened. So they have a list of couple of companies. Maybe they gathered it, they found it on Google, they got an advice from, from a friend or fellow CEO or whoever it is. So they have like 3 to 5 companies. When they have that, what they do, they usually go and do the research, meaning they first go to Google, right? They Google them and they see, okay, I see those are kind of those companies. What are they writing about? What's their positioning, messaging, everything that's on the website. Through SEO, they are communicating for which kind of companies they are. Do they have enough experience? Do they have the features that we need? All those specific things. Then they say, okay, let's see. And if they're, if they have, perfect. Now we go to, for example, LinkedIn or wherever it is, the platform, to check out if they have enough experience for us, right? And only then they reach out to you. So you find out then only after this process is done. So it doesn't have to be just Google. I'm saying Google, but it can be like, Microsoft Azure, or it can be Amazon, Marketplace. There are different
G2,
places they
Capterra,
go.
paid review sites.
Yeah. You have no idea that this thing is happening in the background, right? Unless you talk to the customers. That's how you find out how they are actually buying and how's the process going. So this is where you need to have and be present with what we talk about. It's the middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel content, and you need to communicate why you are the right choice for those companies now. And not only that, but why are you one of the 3 choices that they need to spend money on that year, even on a bigger scale, right? Because in B2B, we already said it's expensive products. Sometimes it happens that you invest in those products once in 5 years. There, I don't know, for example, some products for the factories. You open a factory once in 5 years, then you sell to them, and in 5 years, they come back to you to buy again. So it means during those 5 years, you need to be present, create a relationship, be there. So in 5 years, maybe it's a different person, but they need to choose you again, right? So that's from that perspective. But if you look at, go back and, maybe you want to avoid all of this. What you need to do, then you need to go and create demand, meaning you don't influence creating the demand. The company needs to, to know that, okay, we have this problem, we need to solve it when it's the right time. You need to just be there in the right time. And you don't do that by posting content now or communicating now or doing the ads now, and I'm going to influence the decision making, it's going to happen, and I'm going to close 50 million deal in a week. It doesn't happen. So what you are doing now, you will see the results in a couple of months. And to be able to do that, you need to know how decisions are being made. Okay, we said one part of it. Another part of it is, how do you get on the list? Right? So you need, when I want to buy something in B2B, I first go to the small communities that we have now. Right? So I go and I ask, I have 10 people that I know and trust over there. Then I go to social, and maybe I will have a post and get the feedback, or I will pick up the phone and call, for example, you, Sam, and say, hey man, you are working with, you also have a podcast. Maybe you can recommend me the best tool to, I don't know, chop up the smaller clips, for example, or something like that. But I will ask somebody who is my peers, maybe more experienced than I, to give me a recommendation. Marketing's job is to be there, and so their name appears when those conversations happen. Meaning, it has a job to facilitate the sales process and communicate our unique advantage. And if that things happen, customers will come to us inbound on their own, come to the website and say, I want to buy. When they say I want to buy, this is the moment when they are ready, and this is the moment when we involve the sales. Right? Until that moment, we don't want to involve sales because they don't want to talk to sales. Right? They want to do their research, they want to find out information, maybe listen to the podcast, read articles, communicate with us on social, see how other companies are thinking about us, all these things. But then sales has an easy job to just convert the demand, right? That is already out there. And by doing that, they are not wasting time on talking to 200, 300 leads, which is extremely expensive. And when you have that many leads, and when leads are your target, right, you go and add more. So then you need to have more salespeople. Not everybody are experienced, not everybody are good in what they do. But if you do it like I described, sales can actually go and do the outbound, do the outreach, talk to the people in different way, and you are already creating the awareness, the brand, so it's much easier for them to communicate. And in that way, there's an alignment inside the company, right? Because the two things are talking about. Sales is not saying marketing is giving us the shitty leads again, but instead you are actually having the symbiosis of everything. And what is, this is the final thing that I'm going to say, what is the unique advantage that the company can have, especially B2B SaaS these days, is the clear and simple onboarding process, and how people find you, convert, get the product, try it, and actually buy. So in that way, by doing that, you are actually differentiating from the others and making it more easy for the others to buy from you.
A lot to unpack, but I appreciate there's a lot we've covered there, Nemanja. So great start. We talked about demand capture. We've talked about creating demands. We're essentially saying basically that doesn't really matter the audience that you serve. No more than 2, 3, maybe a little bit more percent are going to be at one time in market for your offer. So actively searching for your solution on Google, going to paid review sites, or going to whether it's a search engine or elsewhere that they'd go to when they're ready to, I don't know, sign up, book a demo, speak to a salesperson. So as well as that, you should be considering creating demand. So building mind share. I think I've heard this saying from Pep Laya or maybe someone else, creating mental availability.
Yeah, that's a common thing these days to say.
Yeah, within your prospect's mind. So I suppose when they associate certain problems that you might solve, they think of your offer, or when they need a certain service or solution, they think your offer comes to mind. So there's a lot to break down, and I love the point, because I speak to this a lot as well, that the fact that when you are providing a higher value solution, service, or piece of software, it's not one person buying it. there's several people involved in that committee, and it's not like a click of the fingers decision. There's a lot of thought that goes into it, a lot of valuation, and if you can get ahead of that curve, it's going to help you so much by being familiar, already being trusted, and already being at the top of the list. So almost getting a bit of a cheat code to being top choice. So with that said, where we are now, should B2B, should SaaS companies, should they still start, in your opinion, so we probably disagree on this, should companies start with capturing that demand, so the folks that are already searching for the solution but might not have a brand top choice, or should they start with trying to kind of create awareness, create affinity, and building demand?
Yes, so there are two things, so and two answers, right? The first one is if you are creating a totally new product that doesn't exist anymore. It's not something that you are solving the same problem, but you found a problem that other people aren't solving. So in that case, there's no demand to close, right? So you need to first start creating the conversations around that topic, and go and do something differently. I usually like to use the example of Drift back in the days when they basically start organizing like offline events, dinners for product people, for executive, and listening what they were saying. And they were saying a lot of stuff. I have a problem with this, with this, with this. And they found out, okay, so they don't like forms on the website, right? So how do we call it nicely so we can actually create conversation around it? We call it conversational marketing, right? So what can we do to actually empower that and make people actually go and search for it? We write a book. So, and also we create a podcast when we talk about all these things. We use social media like Twitter at the time. We empower our team to talk about it on LinkedIn. And then you have different voices, evangelism, basically conversational marketing, right? And it doesn't create only the thing for you, it also empowers others in the space, right? It's not something that you alone can do, but you need to involve other companies as well. So from that perspective, yeah, because if you do the customer research and you ask people, to give you feedback on what you want to sell, if they don't know that something exists, they cannot actually give you the information, right? And
Sure.
if you don't solve the problem, you leave them with the existing solutions that didn't solve the problem, well, they will be pissed off at you, right? So you will have to deal with that as well. But on the other hand, what I suggest to everybody, because like if you look at the biggest companies out there, they started from the existing problem, right? And it's much easier to go into the audience that already has the existing problem. Maybe you just have the better solution, right? Or you go into the smaller niche when you have a simpler solution for them and start from that place. So that's where I would always go instead of chasing how do we call it, unicorns, and coming up with the category creation and those kind of things. I would start from the existing problems that I can solve and that resonates with, how do I call it, like when I look at the potential market, I like to say, as small as the market that we can own 30% of in like 6 months. That's how small I want to get if I can, right? Meaning you talk to 200 people, right? You don't need to talk to that many people. Those are like 200 people that you want to talk to, show your content to, show your offer to, create relationships with, whatever it is. So they know that you are the solution, right? And you want to have at least, how do we call it, marquee customer. You scrape your way into that. So there are no specific ways how you can do it. You try different things to get that customer, because that one customer that everybody on the market knows will open the doors for you for the others to come. Meaning they're choosing between solving a specific problem that bothers them for a long time or trusting you. you are solving the problem, and then you are working with that company that they know and trust. So it eliminates that, and that's where you start with. So when you build and you actually be on top of the market, owning 30% of the niche means that you own the niche, right? So when you go there, basically you start with that and you build from there. So you not go with, I need to have like 40,000 people reaching with my ads, with my content, but with 200.
Yeah, and I suppose there's a few considerations. I see some nice feedback for those tuning in live from Amy and Katie enjoying the conversation. So I appreciate everyone tuning in if you are on the live. But yeah, we're talking about a few things. So you mentioned if you're a new category, if your solution, if your offering is perhaps something that your target prospects don't actually know exists, so they're not searching for it, they're not comparing it, they're not looking for it, then you have to kind of talk to your customers, understand, like the drift example you gave, understand what is their problem, understanding this solution is actually worth building out, and then realizing how you can build awareness around it, bring it to market, strike up conversations, and start driving revenue that way. And then eventually, once demand is created, you might be able to use mechanisms like SEO, paid search, review sites, and all the rest of it. Whereas probably the smarter way is to look for a maybe untapped niche within your category, within your solution for maybe a more mature market, aka a solution that people already knows exists. And then they might be searching Google for it. They might be going to review sites. They might be going to other ways to find it. That's probably makes more sense. So
Do we agree or disagree?
I agree. I mean, naturally, I sell SEO, right? I provide SEO. That's my main offer. So I'm going to tell people that demand capture is the way. But I think we're of a similar mindset. I say the same. I say, look, SEO is a waste of your time if you're a new category. Like if you're selling something that people aren't searching for, like you're way better off realizing talking to your target customers, talking to target prospects, where do they spend their time? Where are their trustworthy sources? Are they listening to a specific podcast? Great, pay for ad space there, or get your founder interviewed there. Are they tuning into are they reading a certain newsletter? Get ad space there, or get a feature there. Are they going to a specific event? Get your ass there. Do not waste your money or time on SEO. Please find out where your target prospects are hanging out now, and then consider SEO maybe more of an education piece over time. And then once there's more demand around your offer, yes, go full steam on it, go full steam on paid search. But right now, if folks are already in different places, get your resource there and then go for it, and maybe build out an outbound strategy as well, where you can kind of lay out the problems you fix and start garnering interest that way.
And it's actually, it takes time to create the brand, the awareness. You can cheat on it, kind of like we did with Funky Marketing, creating like Funky Marketing top voices list and those kind of things with the people who have the authority. So they, we look like we have a brand. We are nearly close to having a brand even now, like 4.5 years later, right? But it looked like that, and people call us. I come to the meeting, they say, "Oh, I told you," like the marketer to the CMO, like they are the big boys in the community. People look at it as the bigger one, and that's usually what happens. On social when people are not already indicated. But there is one thing that I want to share, and I think it's important to know, because you see people do that all the time. They try to close the demand before they know how they are different. Right. And usually I will give a specific example. We look at LinkedIn. So they try to use LinkedIn ads, right? Usually when companies go to LinkedIn ads, they say, okay, we're going to do lead gen ads. Right, have a ebook, whatever it is, convert, I don't know, 10, 15 people, download it, and then we're going to pitch them. Right, but the thing is, if they don't know how they are different, and I'm talking different in many, it can be many different aspects, but I'll use an example. They don't look different. They look up to the bigger companies, so they have like the website in the same color as the bigger player, right? The bigger players usually have like blue color on the website, for example, because they are big. It says safety, trust, education, whatever it is. And if you the ads in the same color, and you have the website in the same color, and you don't have a brand, but you are trying to close the demand, what you are actually using, you will evangelize more people to know about your competitors. Then you will close the demand, right? A lot of people forget about that specific things because they see blue and you talk about the same topics, right? And you talk about the same problem. So
Mm.
they will go to Google, look for it, and find the bigger company. And so that happens a lot. And I realized I didn't talk about that as much, and I don't see anybody else talking about it, and it's important.
Big fan of differentiation. And I think a lot of B2B, a lot of SaaS companies are scared stiff to stand out. I think you and I are in a fortunate space in the sense that we both run small businesses. We're both founders. So we can pretty much, we don't have an exec team telling us what we can and can't do. We can do what we want. Like, for example, my website headline is B2B SEO for revenue, not vanity. And we did that for a reason, because customers were telling me their agencies are promising the world, promising all this traffic, but it's not converting into demos. And I said, well, let's do the opposite and let's relay that in our messaging. And I'm sure you're much the same with your tactics. Like, we can pretty much try
No,
and test what we want based on what the market, what prospects, what customers tell us.
we can be
And
fast and iterate.
we
Yeah.
can stand against the giants that we maybe don't agree with, and we can kind of post our hot takes. It gets a bit harder when you go into larger enterprises, a lot more red tape. But like you say, you've got to stand out. If you're a small fish in a big pond, you've got to pick a niche. You've got to pick industries that are maybe underserved, and you've got to stand for something if you want to get that initial mind share, get that mental availability, get remembered by your prospects.
Yeah, because if you're trying to get people to go and look for you, you're trying to educate them. Make sure that you educate them in a way that they go and look for you, not for the problem or something like that, because that's not where you will win. That's where your competitors are winning.
Let's start with that then. Let's for folks that are tuning in, listening, watching, and thinking, I want target clients to start looking for me, and got to build some affinity around my brand. So when they think of this offer or this problem, they look for us directly. Like, what are some of the first steps if folks want to build a bit of a demand gen engine and start being the first choice in their prospect's mind? What are some of the first things they should consider?
Yeah, let's go quickly step by step. So before you do anything, you need to know how you position yourself, how you communicate that positioning, differentiation well. How do you get those things to know? You talk to your customers, right? Existing one and the ones that you lost, and you ask them, how would you call our product or our service? How would you look for it? Where do you go to get educated? Is it the same place where you will go when you want to buy? If you have to buy again our product or the service because you are talking to existing customers, would you do the same as you did before? And you of course ask them what did they do. The goal, or also like, who are you following on social, LinkedIn? Which newsletters are you reading? Who are you following on YouTube? Which podcasts are interest of you? So you want to create a clear picture to know exactly how customers are coming to buy from you, right? We said one thing before, and this marketing has a goal to facilitate the buying process. So you need to know exactly the steps they are doing to get there. And you need to give them exactly enough in each step so they go to the next step. Not too much. We mentioned that they don't want to talk to sales, they want to do different stuff. For example, like, you give them an article to read, and inside that article, you give them a resource, meaning a checklist. Like, for example, the article is about how to create the best landing page, right? For example, and the research might be 5 things to do now to create the best landing page. So you know that they're ready for the next step, right? And you go and then you serve them the next step. If they are not ready, not clicking on that, they are not ready. So important thing is to follow in which stage they are, how they are going. But the thing is, it's always getting messy. We told about it. The process is not linear. They might listen to this podcast now, read this article. They might download the resource as well, and then say, I just wanted to get it and do it on my own. And then they reach out after a couple of months. So the thing is, that when you know all these things, so you know the platform which they are using, you know whom they are following, you know how the buying process goes, so you can actually create a strategy around it. What I say previously, you need to have a strategic narrative, a story of your company that you actually know who you are and who you're targeting. Then you go to the strategy and start creating content strategy and all these things. So important thing is, okay, these, for example, we choose LinkedIn as a platform. Let's say that's a place where we go. When we go to LinkedIn, we need to know who are the people that our audience trust and follow. So we try to see how we can work with those people. To give you an example, I recently had a, I don't know, it was a conversation, creating something, whatever it is, with Wix, for example.
Okay.
And, they are B2C. Everybody knows them as B2C tool, right? But in the background, they've been creating B2B content, product for the enterprise companies. And it's
Yep.
already existing, they're already using, but nobody knows that they are B2B content, enterprise level. So what they say, okay, who is our target audience? Our target audience is our marketers, right? Those that lead marketing teams inside, corporations. So what we're going to do, we're going to go, we ask, marketers, who are they following, what's happening, did
Yeah.
our own research. So they reach out and they say, okay, we want to do influencer marketing. We want to involve different marketers to talk about us, about use our tool, talk about our tool, and go to do different things. So we want to slowly create the awareness through that, right? And be on top of mind. That's all that they can do. Then I told them, okay, what if we can do the next thing as well? So first we create, I don't know, it can be a top list, top 10 marketers by weeks. How do we call it? So, and we have some target accounts, and then we have some influencers, a mix of people. So we create slowly relationships with them and we involve them. It becomes an account-based marketing strategy, right? From the awareness, we take them to the middle of the funnel. When we already talk about them using the tool, we involve, for example, like some leaders, head of the product, CMO, so they can get familiar with the people from the company. Then after that phase, so now we create the awareness, we have relationship with those people. What can we do? Well, maybe we can do 2 webinars that will explain how the product actually works. So we can go tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 1 are ideal clients. Tier 2 are maybe the people we mentioned that there are a group of people inside the company, buying committee, how we call them, that can influence the decision making from from a different perspective. So we have tier 1, tier 2. We explain those things. So we then watch who's reacting to those videos, not send pitching right away the people who were on webinars, but looking if they are watching the video, if they are opening the emails. If they are, then we call them right away, right? So that can be like one way to do it. Other way can be, I don't know, go through the founders of the company, through the leadership. Then we have them active on LinkedIn. They share thought leadership content. Then we have a company page where we share how we actually solve the specific problem. And then people who are, for example, not leadership, but they're marketers, sales, product people, personalize those posts. So we solve the problem that way. Here's from my perspective, how does it look like? So inside their own expertise, they share how they do it. And it creates, we started calling them surround sound, right? We have the company page, which is like umbrella. And then we have people from the company who actually holds the umbrella so you don't get soaking wet on the rain. And and those people, actually employees of the company, actually create the surround sound of the company, and it matters a lot. It can get very easy in millions. So imagine having different conversations. You come to LinkedIn, you see that man from the company. Tomorrow you see another one. Day after, you get notification that the third one is also on a, I don't know, live streaming on an event. The fourth day, you see the head of brand talking about hiring somebody from LinkedIn. and you feel like they're everywhere. You don't actually have a choice. At one moment, you feel like you don't have a choice. I'm using that one example is the Sam Rush that I'm talking about.
Right.
So like at one moment, you feel like you don't have a choice.
They're going
And
big on brand at the moment, aren't they, on LinkedIn? Big time. But
yeah,
Wix
yeah,
is a good example as well. Wix used to have a really bad rep, as that their websites weren't great for SEO.
exactly.
So
Know what?
they basically got in touch with a bunch of SEO influencers, started getting them to ship out a load of content in partnership on
Yeah.
channels like LinkedIn, YouTube. Now I think they sponsor a bunch of SEO specific podcasts, and they've basically slowly, gradually chipped away at having that terrible reputation to now thinking, oh, Wix is actually
Let me
okay.
tell you what else they are doing. While doing that, they are now having the planning the product launch of that thing, but also they started organizing events in London, in the US, in Australia.
Mm,
So offline executive dinners. Remember we said how Drift did it. So they connect offline with the online, with influencer marketing, with partners. And of course, they have the B2C aspect of it, which is on Instagram mainly,
mm,
TikTok, whatever it is. And now when you see that, it creates like lava effect. They are everywhere, including also the podcast and those kind of things. And that's exactly what you want to create. So when somebody feels okay, I need a website, they go and they look for Wix. They don't look for anybody else, or they go and look for SEMrush. They don't look for anybody else. And usually how we track that now, that's I think the essential part. How do we track the content creation? We have these two lines that we create. So we talk about closing demand and creating demand, right? Closing demand, it goes through CRM, it goes through Google Analytics. Then you can actually see, okay, it's coming from LinkedIn, it's coming from Slack, it's coming from YouTube. We can see those things, and it's very indicated because like they are looking at the last touch attribution. Mostly multi-touch attribution is flown in all kind of ways, but it gives us the quantitative way of measuring things. So that many people came from this platform, they did this. But if we add, that's actually, it's mind-blowing how simple it is, right? We add a self-reported attribution form on the website, and we said that those, I usually like to use two fields, and we say that they are a must for somebody to fill in. We don't have predicting answers, so they need to have a blank piece of space, and they write. When we ask them, I usually ask them, how did you hear about us, and why do you want to work with us? So first one usually says, they will give us, for example, like this podcast. They heard it on a podcast. They heard it on LinkedIn. They heard it somebody else, or they can say, I heard it. I saw the post inside our community, right? Somebody saw this video and posted it in a company Slack, and they watched it, and maybe in 2 months or 3 months, wherever, the demand got to that far and the problem got really big, they reached out. So they knew who they're going to reach out. It just took time. On the other hand, why do you want to work with us? That's kind of an interesting thing. And on the first one and second one, I usually get like Nemanja jumps out of Pate on LinkedIn. I got Nemanja on LinkedIn. So they use the same words that I'm using. Or they say, I'm following what you guys are doing on LinkedIn and in a B2B space. I'm in industrial space. Nobody does what you guys are doing. Everything is boring, it's dull, and I want to try something else. And that's enough for me to have a conversation with you. Or they say, I don't know, like, why do you reach out to us? They say, like, Peplaya recommended you, for example, or Refine Labs referred you. But then when I say, why do you want to work with us? They say, well, when Peplaya recommends you, I listen,
mm.
so you see which authorities are also referring to you, because, people who will react on your posts, those are usually your peers, and they will recommend it. They won't buy from you. But those who will buy from you are those who you get referred to, or those people who are never reacting to anything. They are just watching, observing, and when the time comes, they say, "Hey, Nemanja, I've been following you for 3 years." You know, and it's the time that it happens. And also, so let's say what happens if the deal doesn't go through. You think that that deal is lost, so you focus on something else. You stop posting on social, you stop doing the things that you're doing, and nothing will happen, but because people will keep coming through Google, which are not ideal, looking for the lower price, looking for different things. But if you keep doing what you're doing, you are also talking to the customers who are potentially lost but can be gained again, to come back to you. Maybe you don't know what happened. I just had a situation when a guy reached out to me. I sent him a form in February. He came now, and he said, "Oh, a lot of things happened. I moved to Valencia. A lot of things happened." And he reached out. I need a fractional CMO. Right. So those kind of things happen. Somebody reached out to me after 4 years. And also to those deals that fell through, what you can do, you can increase the lifetime value of those deals through the content. Meaning, if you talk about, hey, specific things, I work with that company, I sold them this product, this is how they used it, or how we help them solve specific problem through our services. People are following you, especially the leaders, if you are active. So they, one leader of the company is following another, always happening, especially if you using their product. And then they will say, hey, is there maybe something that we can work on additionally? Can you help us with that as well? Can your product, if we buy like the premium package, can it also solve that problem for us that is solved for this company? Because usually, as we talk about on your episode on my podcast, is companies like to look up to the similar companies from the industry. When they see, okay, you help that company, I know that, I know that company, I know the leader, and I know that then you can help us as well.
Yeah. Some good points. One thing that I want to dive into quick is you've given some great examples. So you mentioned kind of the strategy that Wix have been working on. For any marketers that are perhaps tuning in, or solo founders that are thinking, that all sounds great and I understand, but these are mammoth, huge software companies. Which of this can I implement myself as perhaps a smaller business or marketing team of 1, 2, or kind of a small little team?
Let me tell you, Wix came to me inbound. And I'm one person company at the moment. So you can do it. You just need to know who you are targeting. And I'm somebody who has been working with startups before. Now I'm moving up market, mid-sized companies, and maybe enterprise level companies who are coming like Wix from B2C, moving to B2B, and need help with understanding B2B and the context and how it works, and those kind of things. So important thing is that you know exactly who you are talking to, and not getting out of it. So usually what I say, let's say you focus on LinkedIn. So that's the simplest as it can be. So focus on creating content for LinkedIn, as simple as possible. You know what you are doing, go ahead and write over there. First, write about what you are selling, a product or a service. Write everything about it, which features it has, how does it work, everything. Then the second tier should be usually things that you talk about. How do we say? Has anybody ever reached? Have you helped somebody reach the promised land? Who are those people? Can you share me the examples? So you go with testimonials, with case studies, success stories, to show how other companies like those that you are targeting, solve their problems.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go. What you want to talk about more is your experience, right? Or experience of your team if you're creating a product, right? So you want to know that the right people are working on that. So you need to know their experience, stories, however it goes. Then you want to go further, and maybe you want to add something that's personal. For example, I don't know, we talked about soccer at the beginning of the episode. Then I can say I like to read comics. I like to read epic fantasy books. Then I play basketball. I I go on Twitter and I talk about the NBA, those kind of things. So you want to have that small note that people can connect you with. So then it's more than business. It's more than business, and you can go more in depth about the business topics because you understand each other on a deeper level. It can be, I don't know, the example comes to mind. A guy that is working with me on a lot of stuff, doing LinkedIn education with me, Dan Pataki, he has a podcast with his wife, Rare and Share, about the rare diseases, because their son had a disease. Now he doesn't have, but they like to do evangelism for that topic.
Mm.
And he talk about parenthood and kids and those kind of things. And it's like not even the 20% of the content he talks about, right? 80% is still the services he offers, the product, whatever it is. So that's how you go. If you want to make it more simple, then that might be too complicated for somebody. Past, present, and the future. Past is what happened until now. You have stories, books that you read, last work experiences, campaigns that you ran, whatever it is. You have present time, meaning what you do day to day. Outcomes from the meetings, conclusions, things that you consume right now. And then you have the future, it is your point of view. So meaning you get up in the air and you look at everything that's happening with your experience, with your knowledge, and with what we already mentioned with positioning, messaging, you know who you are targeting. So you see some things others don't see. If not, why are you there at all? So let's assume that you know that. So when you are above everybody else, you can connect the dots and see the paths that others don't see. And it should make you angry, right? Frustrated that others don't see it. And that should give you the strength, because like those point of view, or I call it future posts, will be sometimes rants. Sometimes you will help others connect the dots and educate them. Sometimes you will share examples, whatever it is, but you need to figure out the way, and you figure it out by talking to the customers, how they want to consume those things and what is the best way that you explain it to them. Now, that is something that is called content platform fit, and it takes for 12 months to 2 years to do it. So I always suggest go all in, share different types of content in a different way, but talk about the same things, and you will get as fast as possible to that. Then you optimize, then you automate, and then you move on to the next target audience, or you to the next feature.
Some great stuff shared. And I think some of the crux of this is, like I talk about a lot, I think you're of a similar mindset, like really understanding if you want to do a lot of this, if you want to create awareness with the target prospects that you actually want to be selling to, you've got to do the hard miles beforehand. You've got to understand where they're getting their trusted information, where they are. In B2B, yeah, a lot of that's LinkedIn, but then who are they listening to on LinkedIn? Like you mentioned at the start of this episode, like what are the influencers they trust? Does LinkedIn actually make sense in this situation, or should we try and go on specific podcasts or get involved in newsletters or get involved in trade shows? And then what you mentioned there, educating the market and getting involved in, like you said, whether that's sharing stories or showing examples or talking about the product. I think where a lot of folks go wrong on LinkedIn, and I did, but in the past, is not actually integrating the product into my posts, or integrating, in my case, our service or offer, or talking about our company. And because it's all good and well that I've seen, like sharing stories and sharing examples, but you do need to make sure you link it to your product, or you link it to your offer, so that availability is there, whether that's just weaving in your brand name, or sharing an example, like saying, like, head to our website to learn more about this topic, or giving a use case of the product, weaving that in so folks can then kind of connect with you on a deeper level. Yes, you're grabbing their attention initially, and then you're saying, look, this is how our product weaves in. So I think that's something that sometimes gets forgotten a bit when folks, especially on platforms like LinkedIn, are going super hard trying to get as many views or as many click-throughs or as many likes and comments as they want. But really, if it doesn't link back to your product, then it's not going to be as worthwhile as you're probably
That,
hoping.
that's what you and I talked about already about the middle of the funnel, right? Because people are extreme. We either sell, or we educate until we die,
Yeah,
and we need to find the middle ground.
definitely, man. Well, look, I know we're coming up to time, and I appreciate you sharing kind of real tactical examples. I know you and I could probably talk about this stuff for hours on end, and I'm sure we'll do another episode
Definitely.
in the months to come. So with that, Nemanja, please do tell our listeners, our watchers, more about how they can learn from you, connect with you, and the best way to get in touch.
Yeah, the best way is LinkedIn or funkymarketing.net, or just look for Nemanja Živković or Funky Marketing anywhere. So Funky Marketing Podcast or YouTube or any other platform. Just, I think Google is the right source these days. Or what's interesting, I also got the request coming in from ChatGPT, the first one.
Oh, that's
Somebody
interesting.
somebody found funky marketing on ChatGPT. So,
There
as
you
we
go.
talked about, like SEO does its thing in the background. We just connect the dots as we should.
The AI takeover is coming, sir. Good stuff. Well, Nemanja, really appreciate you coming on. Enjoyed the chat. And as always, if you want to join thousands of B2B legends getting our lesser known B2B marketing tips, SEO ideas, case studies, and podcast updates, head over to breakingb2b.com and check out the newsletter. And with that, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one for more no BS B2B marketing tips to grow your business. Catch you soon.
Cheers.